I would not have thought that at all. Wow.
Well, it kept up with the times.
Another Rolex watch in question as the previous one, but it's different because of its rich history in car racing. Guests visited a Rolex dealer, only to be told that acquiring such a watch was nearly impossible. He searched classified ads and found a seller 100 miles away offering 2 Daytona models. Eager to buy the white-faced watch, he learned it was unavailable and instead opted for the black-face after consulting his wife, who was pregnant with their second child. Despite her initial reservations about the investment, she encouraged him to go ahead, and they arranged to meet the seller at a mall where he paid in cash. The guest admitted he wasn't entirely sure, but felt confident as it came with the original box and paperwork. This was before the rise of counterfeit watches, and he believed it appeared genuine. Over the next 25 years, he wore the watch almost daily, even during manual labor, resulting in noticeable wear and tear.
If this watch was mint, yes, that's going to definitely help it. But in your case, the fact that you've worn it so much outside.
While the guest was not the original owner, he bought the watch less than a year after its initial purchase. The presence of original documentation, including the warranty booklet and matching serial numbers, boosts its value. The appraiser suggested the guest's usage may have positively impacted the watch's worth. The watch features an organic varnish on the black dial, which has caused the subdials to change color.
They were the only people making an automatic chronograph movement at the time, so Rolex finished the movement. It's got all of Rolex's features in it. It's signed Rolex on the movement.
Equipped with the automatic El Primero movement made by Zenith, the watch exemplifies Rolex's commitment to quality craftsmanship. Initially purchased for $5,700, the guest estimated its value at around $20,000.
Almost doubles the value. This is $50,000 to $60,000 at auction right now.
Wow. I would not have thought that at all. Wow.
The appraiser revealed similar models currently trade for $20,000 to $25,000, and with the original paperwork, its value could rise to $30,000. The wear from outdoor use might nearly double its worth, from $50,000 to $60,000.
I've been very happy with the black dial, actually.
It's worked out really well with you.
The guest brought a Rolex watch that they purchased in 1973. They bought the watch while working as a private pilot, hoping it would help with navigation. The watch is a Rolex Daytona, specifically a triple register chronograph model. This model, the reference number 6263, is known as the Paul Newman Daytona. The appraiser explained that it was popular among race car drivers and pilots for its timing features. The guest still had the original box, outer box and receipt from over 40 years ago. Despite the watch's age, its condition remains excellent since the guest rarely wore it. The appraiser noted that being a one-owner watch with all original items adds value. The guest reveals how much he paid for it.
Over 40 years ago, you bought this watch brand new.
Yes.
You paid $543 for this watch.
The appraiser values the watch in the current market.
In today's market, retail, this watch is going to easily bring $100,000.
The guest was shocked and in disbelief at its significant increase in value.
I'm in disbelief.
Yet another Rolex stuns its owner as its value is unveiled, far exceeding their wildest expectations, leaving them breathless with disbelief. A woman stumbled upon a Rolex at an estate sale and, unsure if it was genuine, bought it for a mere $10, completely unaware of the treasure she held in her hands. Later, her husband took it to an appraisal fair, and to their surprise, they were instantly offered $800. Intrigued, they decided to keep it, sensing it could be worth far more.
Somebody said to him that he would give him $800 for it.
When a professional appraiser examined it, they revealed the thrilling truth. It was a genuine Rolex from the early 1940s, a rare and valuable piece of history. This model, known as the Bubbleback, earned its name from its thick, rounded case, ingeniously designed to house the revolutionary mechanism that winds the watch automatically. The appraiser pointed out that, although the bracelet wasn't original, it had no impact on the watch's value.
It is genuine.
Oh.
It was made by the Rolex Watch Company in Geneva, Switzerland.
Its worth remained just as staggering. He warned them to stay vigilant when appraisers try to buy instead of just valuing. It often means the piece is far more valuable than they're letting on. While assessing the item's condition, the appraiser said,
For a watch like this, in this type of condition, I think realistically, at auction purposes, you'd be looking around $4,000.
Wow.
This Rolex GMT Master carries a legacy of service and resilience that spans nearly 5 decades. At 18, the guest lived with his uncle, who gifted him a Rolex GMT Master when he joined the military. The uncle, a Vietnam veteran from 69 to 70, bought the watch at the PX for $100.
It's been beat up quite a bit, as you can imagine, and search warrants are trying to arrest suspects and getting smashed to the ground.
The guest wore it daily throughout his police career, enduring the rigors of search warrants and arrests, leading to significant wear and tear. After 49 years of rough use, including daily wear in Afghanistan, the watch has certainly seen its share of action.
It's great. There's a picture of it here we have here of your uncle wearing the watch.
He was just getting promoted to first lieutenant.
The appraiser identifies the watch as a 1967 Rolex GMT Master, noting its collectible nature in recent years. The appraiser estimates its retail worth to be between $7,500 and $8,500.
But all that being said, your watch still today would easily retail from between $7,500 and $8,500.
Surprising the guest with the news of its high value. The watch, with its robust build and storied history, stands out not only for its functionality, but also as a cherished keepsake, making it both a practical tool and a sentimental treasure. Another hidden treasure emerges as a 1960s Rolex Day-Date reveals its remarkable value. A man brought in his Rolex Day-Date, purchased in 1964 while on R&R in Hong Kong.
This is a Rolex Day-Date model. I bought it in 1964. It became known later as the presidential model when Lyndon Baines Johnson.
His wife bought it for him as a birthday gift after finding it would cost him 3 months' pay. Though he wanted the yellow gold version, he settled for the 18-karat white gold model, which later became known as the presidential model. The appraiser noted the watch's excellent condition, along with rare original pieces like the timing papers and box. The man guessed its value to be a few $1,000s, but the appraiser shocked him by revealing its worth.
In today's market, because it's a whole complete set and the watch is in such great condition, retail price on this is going to be $20,000.
Oh, my. Well, it kept up with the times.
He was thrilled by the unexpected appraisal. Following the previous Rolex, this guest presented a classic vintage Day-Date model. The watch was passed down from the guest's uncle.
My uncle, my father's brother, he had passed it down to me. I guess he bought it while he was out in California.
After his uncle moved to Georgia, he gifted the watch to the guest. The appraiser confirmed it was an early 1964 Rolex Day-Date, often called the presidential. The watch was all original, with its 18-karat gold case, bracelet, and champagne dial. The guest had the original chronometer bucklet and rare 1964 bucklet. Despite a small crack in the crystal, the watch was in great condition with original packaging. The appraiser valued it at auction.
Your watch today at auction, I see it bringing, with everything that it has with it, would definitely sell easily in the $18,000 to $20,000 range.
It's good. It's really good.
Nice gift.
Nice gift.
The guest brought in a Rolex GMT Master he purchased 55 years ago. He bought it in Germany.
I bought it in Germany, in Zweibrücken, at a PX when I was in the Army over there.
The guest's sergeant recommended they buy a Rolex before returning to the States. The guest had never heard of Rolex before, but trusted the sergeant's advice. He rarely wears the watch now, keeping it more as a keepsake. The appraiser revealed that it was the first model GMT Master Rolex ever made. The guest had kept everything: box, papers, and even the original bracelet. The guest reveals the original price of the watch.
What did you pay for this watch?
This watch, I paid the $120.
The appraiser values the watch.
Just the watch on its own merit would be worth today between $35,000 and $45,000.
The whole set is worth even more as the guest had kept everything original.
Because you saved the box and all the paperwork for it, easily today it's $65,000 to $75,000 in the market.
The guest is left speechless. Yet again, a Rolex unveils a hidden value that greatly exceeds its owner's expectations. An appraiser examines an opal bracelet brought in by a guest who inherited it from her great-aunt in Chicago, revealing that it is not just a bracelet but also a watch hidden beneath the opal face. The appraiser identifies the watch as a Rolex made around 1950, crafted from 18-karat gold and in exceptional condition with almost no wear. The uniqueness of the bracelet is highlighted, with the opal being in pristine condition and showing vibrant flashes of green and red.
You see there's the Rolex crown right there on the dial.
The opal itself is free from any damage or crazing, which is rare for its age. The watch features its original untouched dial and the signature Rolex crown, both of which further enhance its uniqueness and appeal.
Red is really the most desirable color in opals, so it's really exceptional opal. There's no crazing on it. It's just really wonderful.
The guest is surprised and delighted to learn the true nature and craftsmanship behind the piece. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
Would easily retail for approximately $10,000 to $12,000.
Okay.
Insurance, easily a minimum of $15,000 should be put on it for insurance valuation.
Terrific. Thank you.
This captivating Rolex watch tells a poignant story of resilience and survival. The guest shared a remarkable story about a Rolex watch that belonged to their father, who purchased it in the fall of 1944 while being held as a German prisoner of war. This watch was donated by Rolex and distributed through the International Red Cross to prisoners in camps during that time, with the expectation that recipients would remit payment once they returned home.
This dial's very special. It's called the California dial. It has Roman numerals and regular numbers, and it's basically split in half.
The guest's father had been captured at Anzio in January 1944 and remained a POW until the war's end. The appraiser identified the watch as a Rolex bubbleback.
Do you have any idea what your father actually paid for this watch while he was in prison?
Manufactured in 1943 and sold to the guest's father in 1944. The guest was unaware of the purchase price, but mentioned that similar watches had sold for as little as £12 to £15 at the time. The appraiser estimated that this particular watch could retail for between $8,000 and $10,000 today, largely due to its collectible dial.
And that's because of the collectible dial. The dial makes this watch, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
30 years ago when I started in business, this is what I hunted for.
Among all the other watches, this piece belongs to a retired brigadier general who served in the Air Force and flew fighter planes during World War II. He was involved in various military organizations and settled in Virginia. He had served as a fighter pilot during the war and selected a few items to highlight his legacy.
So tell me about the first picture here.
It's just a picture of him getting in one of his jets that he flew.
One photo showed the general getting into a jet, while another featured his commanding officer, Jimmy Stewart. A presentation box from his service on the NATO committee, dated from 1965 to 1967, was sterling silver, indicating its significance.
This particular one was built in 1949. This would have been the highest end of what a pilot would have had, and of course, being a general.
The appraiser then focused on a Rolex Model 4500, known for its anti-magnetic properties. This model featured a gold bezel, luminous hands, and a telemeter function, ideal for pilots. Built in 1949, it represented the pinnacle of luxury for pilots. The guest was surprised to learn it was worth easily $70,000, with the presentation box adding around $1,000.
Did you have any idea?
No.
No idea.
No.
If you had the original box and the original paperwork with it, that would probably add $20,000 to the watch.
This Rolex Submariner has accompanied its owner on countless adventures, both history and resilience. The guest, a former lieutenant stationed in Japan in 1971, shared the story of his Rolex Submariner. A friend traveling to Hong Kong offered to buy one for him, and the guest paid $110 for the watch.
I've run with it, I've surfed with it, I've scuba dived with it, I've orienteered with it, I've backpacked with it. I was body surfing off the Solana Beach and came up.
Over the years, he used it for various activities, including running, surfing, scuba diving, and orienteering. The guest was grateful but never learned the girl's identity, wanting to reward her for her honesty.
I've always appreciated that.
And I've noticed you've kept the paperwork on it, on the box.
The guest confirmed he purchased the watch in 1971, aligning with its production timeframe.
It has some very collectible features on it. On the dial, the Submariner is printed in red ink.
Yes.
You said you got it in, what year again, 1971?
The appraiser advised against refurbishing the watch, explaining that collectors often prefer original pieces even if they show wear. While the watch has condition issues, such as a faded bezel insert and a stretched bracelet,
It does have condition issues, but there's some really wonderful things about it.
these characteristics add to its charm among collectors. The acrylic crystal is scratched but can easily be replaced. Despite its wear, the watch has a strong market presence, and the appraiser estimated its retail value at $20,000 to $25,000. Different from previous watches, this one has a unique speciality. A man brought his father's old Rolex Submariner watch to an appraiser. He wanted to find out if it was worth repairing. His dad wore it for years while working in Alaska.
So what makes the watch interesting is this is called a feet first dial.
He passed it down to him about 10 to 15 years ago. The watch, made in 1974, still had all the original components, like the box, tags, and warranty, which made it more valuable. It also had rare features, such as a feet-first dial and red lettering for the word Submariner.
Then the word Submariner is written in red instead of in white, and that was only done for a few years, and that makes it much more desirable.
However, some collectors might prefer to buy it as is to preserve its originality. While examining the condition of the watch, the appraiser said,
And then in total running condition, it would probably increase the watch to maybe $32,000.
The guest brought a Rolex his father left him. His father gifted it to the son with the highest education. The guest won it with a master's degree and shares it with his twin. The Rolex is a Daytona Cosmograph, reference 6263 from 1978. It has a panda dial, silver-white face, black subdials, and red Daytona. The guest loves its manual wind and screw-down waterproof buttons. The dial is in perfect condition, with no fading or damage. The acrylic crystal has some scratches, but it's left original. The appraiser valued the watch.
So in today's retail market, this watch is going to sell $95,000 to $105,000.
The guest was shocked, as he had worn it casually. He now plans to wear it only on special occasions.
I love wearing it, but definitely I'm not going to wear it that often, only on very, very special occasions.
With a story that intertwines adventure and nostalgia, this vintage Rolex Red Submariner has been a cherished companion for over 5 decades. In 1972, the guest was inspired to acquire a Rolex after scuba diving with a friend. His friend picked up the watch for $129 in Jamaica. The guest wore it almost daily until 2008.
We went to about 90 feet, so I can't claim that I took it as deep as it said it could go.
He preserved the original warranty and paperwork. The appraiser identifies the watch as a Red Submariner. It was the first model to feature a date function.
They're noted for their waterproofness. The versions today now have sapphire crystals, whereas yours was plastic. They keep making improvements.
This vintage piece has become highly sought after by collectors. It showcases Rolex's renowned durability and waterproof capabilities. Unlike modern models, the guest's watch has a classic plastic crystal.
I had it cleaned and a new crystal put on it, and I have the paperwork for that.
It's a good thing that at whatever point you sent it to Rolex, they didn't do the work on it.
This adds to its vintage appeal. After having it cleaned and fitted with a new crystal, the guest avoided major repairs that could diminish its value. The appraiser estimates the watch's retail worth at $15,000 to $17,000.
And you've not had the watch refinished or any major work done to it. It's amazing that you've been able to wear it all those years, enjoy it.
This highlights its impressive appreciation from the original purchase price. You must not underestimate the hidden value of a long-forgotten treasure. A guest brought in a rare Rolex Oyster Cosmograph, or Daytona, which he purchased in 1974 during his military service in Thailand. Inspired by the pilots he saw wearing Rolex watches, he ordered it but decided it was too valuable to use for scuba diving, storing it in a safety deposit box for decades. Highly sought after by collectors, the watch, a reference 6263 model, features an Oyster designation and screw-down buttons, which enhance its water resistance. The guest also preserved all original documentation, including blank warranty papers, brochures, and receipts, which further added to its appeal. Emphasizing its rarity and association with Paul Newman, the appraiser noted that the guest's version was even more special and highly desirable among collectors. The watch remains in pristine condition, with its original sticker still intact, and is considered a new old stock. Because of these factors, it was regarded as one of the rarest and most exceptional watches ever brought to the show. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
At auction today, $500,000 to $700,000.
The guest brought in a Rolex watch that belonged to his stepfather. His stepfather was a former POW in World War II at Stalag Luft III in Siegen, Germany. This camp was famously depicted in the movie The Great Escape starring Steve McQueen.
Now that's the famous movie, The Great Escape, with Steve McQueen, a very famous and iconic movie.
The guest mentioned that his stepfather was known as the Cooler King. He wrote his own book about his experiences during the war. Paul Brighill, another POW, wrote a well-known account that included his story. The appraiser identified the watch as dating to the end of World War II, specifically the 1940s.
And if they knew he was a spy, they would execute him.
Right.
So he posed as a pilot. When he was getting captured, he got rid of all his OSS stuff.
It is a chronograph model with 2 buttons for operating its functions. The watch features sub-dials that display the chronograph functions. Its stainless steel case is typical of military watches from that era. What makes this watch truly special is its original black dial, which is very rare.
The watch does date to the end of World War II. It is 1940s. It is a Rolex.
This rarity adds significant value and interest for collectors. The appraiser praised its exceptional condition and unique features. He estimated that the watch could sell for between $40,000 and $50,000. The guest was astounded by the valuation, expressing his excitement and appreciation.
Exceptional watch. It's a rare watch. The story is wonderful.
Mercy. Thank you. That is, oh my goodness.
Another Rolex that sat unnoticed for decades holds an astonishing story of hidden value. A man inherited his father's Rolex Daytona.
This is a watch that belonged to my father, and I inherited it from him when he passed away about 30 years ago.
His father, an accountant, received the watch in lieu of cash. The man didn't wear it for long, thinking it wouldn't help him while waiting tables, so it stayed in a drawer for 30 years. An appraiser identified it as a vintage Rolex Daytona 6263, known as the Big Red due to the red script on the dial. After learning that cosmetic changes could reduce its value by up to $20,000, the appraiser estimated its worth, even without running,
would be $70,000 to $90,000.
Okay. Not running?
Not running.
Wow.
A simple $500 repair was deemed a solid investment for such a valuable timepiece. From a Rolex Daytona to an Explorer, another military story reveals the value of a cherished timepiece. A man brought in his father's 1969 Rolex Explorer.
My father got that watch in 1969 in Hong Kong on his way to Vietnam.
Which his father had bought in Hong Kong on his way to Vietnam. His father, a Navy dentist, wore it throughout his time in Vietnam before passing it on to his son. The son, now a Navy veteran, wore the watch during his 20-year career, including a tour in Iraq. The appraiser identified it as an Explorer 1, a model first introduced in 1953. While the bracelet was likely a later addition, the watch was still a highly sought-after piece. The owner believed it was worth around $7,000. The appraiser valued it.
But other than that, no, I don't know. That's what he liked. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2010.
I think he probably liked it because of the black dial, and it was easy to read the face of the watch. The numerals and hands would glow in the dark. He was working at night. He could easily see what the time was on it. It's a pretty neat piece. Rolex came out with it in 1953 because of all these Explorers. Any idea of valuation on it?
I think $7,000 or so, just about what it would be to replace it.
You know what your father paid for it?
I do, actually. He said he paid $110 for it in 1969 in Hong Kong.
They're quite collectible. You'll watch easily at auction, $12,000 to $15,000 is what it would sell for.
That's awesome. Thank you.
The man was pleasantly surprised by the appraisal. Moving on to another rare and sacred heirloom, the guest recalls a family trip to Europe in 1958. During the trip, they spotted a watch in a Geneva shop window.
We all admired it, and then we left. And my father secretly went back and bought the watch and gave it to my mother for Christmas. It was a nice surprise, and we all recognized it. We all said, "Oh, that beautiful watch."
The Rolex watch, crafted from 18-karat gold and adorned with diamonds, was both a stunning bracelet and a functional timepiece. The appraiser notes its intricate hand engraving and high-quality diamonds. The guest fondly remembers how the watch fit their mother perfectly. At the time, gold was only $32 an ounce, making the purchase relatively affordable. Today, the watch is valued.
This watch would probably be priced somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000.
Wow, I thought it would be $1,000. I don't buy jewelry.
Each link's $1,000.
Wow.
Far more than the original $500 to $700 price. The guest is astonished by its current worth, having expected it to be worth much less. Like the previous ones, another Rolex surprises its owner with a hidden value far beyond what was imagined. A man brought in his Rolex Explorer 2.
Well, my father gave it to me for graduating high school. His father gave him one. It's been my everyday watch. I wear it all the time.
His father had received a similar watch from his own father. The watch, a 1980 model, was designed with a 24-hour hand for cave explorers. Despite years of daily wear, driving, and even cave exploration, the watch remained in original condition, which impressed the appraiser. The man guessed it might be worth around $2,000. However, the appraiser revealed its true value, surprising the owner.
This watch would probably sell on the retail level for somewhere between $12,000 to $14,000.
Really? Wow.
He was advised to find the original box and papers to increase its value further. The guest brought in a Rolex that originally belonged to their father. The guest believes it was purchased by their grandfather for their father.
Well, it belonged to my father, and I believe that his father purchased it for him.
The appraiser identified it as a Rolex rose gold bubbleback, model 3131. This model was produced in 1947, adding historical value. The appraiser emphasized that the dial is original, which greatly impacts its worth. Many Rolex watches from this era have had their dials redone, lowering their value. The originality of this dial increases its desirability for collectors. The appraiser values the watch.
It would probably have a retail value in the $5,500 range.
The guest was pleased with the appraisal. The watch's condition and originality played a key role in determining its worth. Its connection to the guest's family history adds sentimental value as well. The guest brought in a Rolex, gifted by his uncle in 1975. His uncle, a physician, brought it at Tiffany's in New York. The guest wore the watch daily for over 40 years. He refused Rolex's suggestion to replace the original dial. The watch is a GMT Master from 1963-1964 with a rare dial. The Tiffany co-branding adds significant value to the piece. Servicing it would lower its value to a lot less. In its current original condition, the appraiser values it.
Today, in the retail market, your watch is worth $50,000.
Oh, good grief.
The guest was shocked by the appraisal, expecting far less. The slight oxidation and faded bezel add to its collectability. The watch could reach even higher if it were in mint condition.
If the dial had no oxidation on it, and it was really a mint dial, this is a $100,000 watch in today's market.
The guest mentioned that he wasn't planning on buying the watch.
I really wasn't planning on buying watches, just walking down the street and passed a Rolex dealer, and it just caught my eye.
He was simply walking down the street when he passed a Rolex dealer. The watch in the store caught his eye unexpectedly. He recalled the price.
Do you remember how much? Yeah, I think it was around $3,400.
The appraiser confirmed the watch as a Rolex Oyster Daytona. The appraiser noted that this model is quite famous among collectors. Over time, the Daytona has become one of the most desirable. The appraiser estimated the value.
I think today at auction, you'll probably be looking at $35,000. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
The guest was taken aback by this impressive valuation. Following the rare Rolex from earlier, this guest brought in a unique one. In 2007, while in the Virginia Army National Guard, the guest bought 3 older Rolexes.
What did you pay the Sergeant Major for the watches?
So 3 watches, $5,000, financed over about 2 years.
The 1974 Rolex Submariner had been modified over time, with the case and movement remaining original. The appraiser took one look at the watch and, with a wry smile, dubbed it a Frankenstein. It wasn't just the repainted dial that raised eyebrows. This Rolex was a patchwork of parts from different models, cobbled together over time. The case and movement were correct, but the bezel, crown, and hands were from later models. The dial and insert were consistent with the original 1974 production date, adding to the watch's authenticity despite the other modifications made over the years. Despite the modifications, the watch still held value. At retail, it could now be worth.
This would probably trade somewhere between $15,000 to $17,000.
Okay. Thank you so much.
This watch captivates with its distinctive features, setting it apart from its predecessors. A guest recounted the poignant tale of her husband's Rolex GMT Master, a cherished timepiece he purchased in 1966 before embarking on his first tour of duty in Vietnam. Carrying profound significance, this watch miraculously survived a helicopter crash. Worn by a retired lieutenant colonel, this watch carries a legacy of service and resilience.
Although I noticed the red hand, which is for military time. That's the great thing about this watch. It was actually originally made for Pan Am.
After meticulous examination, the appraiser revealed the watch's robust stainless steel construction. He also highlighted the presence of the original band, a testament to its authenticity. He pointed out that its blue and red bezel is a collector favorite, significantly boosting its value.
When you send a watch in today for service, no problem send it to Rolex. Have them service the guts, the engine.
However, he urged her to resist any temptation to let Rolex replace original parts, warning that it could significantly diminish the watch's value. Learn the art of caring for valuable items while deepening your appreciation for their rich history. During the examination of the item's condition, the appraiser remarked,
If it had all been original, $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh, my word. Oh, my word.
Once again, a Rolex surprises its owner with a hidden value far exceeding expectations. A man brought in a watch that had belonged to his grandfather, who passed away 3 years ago. It was appraised 2 years ago for about $3,000, but the new appraiser said it could be worth more.
It's made by Rolex in Geneva. Rolex is a very, very large, very famous Swiss watchmaking company.
The watch was a Rolex from 1954, known for being a high-quality brand. It had a special stopwatch feature called a chronograph, often used in car racing, and was also anti-magnetic, which was useful for the guest's grandfather, who worked as an electrical engineer.
It differs very slightly from regular pieces of this type of era, and that it also has a chronograph feature.
The appraiser was impressed by the originality of the watch, noting that the glass, hands and colourful dial were all original and in great condition. The bracelet wasn't original, but that didn't affect the value much. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
This piece, I think, estimate today for auction purposes is around $25,000 to $30,000. So it's a little higher than the value that you were given.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Charles.
The guest brought in his father's Panerai Italian military wristwatch. His father got it from an Italian prisoner during World War II.
What I brought here was my father's Panerai Italian military wristwatch that he got during World War II from an Italian prisoner.
The father was a military interpreter at a prison camp in Princeton, Texas. The watch is a Panerai Radiomir, reference 3646, made in association with Rolex. It was designed for the Italian Navy, specifically for divers. The watch has a radioactive radium dial for visibility in the dark. The Rolex case and pocket watch movement contributed to its durability. The yellowing of the crystal is from aging plastic, not glass. The dial, though buckling, is repairable, according to the appraiser. The guest estimated the watch's original value.
So now, in terms of a value, any idea?
$7,000.
The appraiser revealed it could sell for a lot more.
In today's market, retail, this watch will bring $50,000 to $60,000.
The guest bought a Rolex from a jeweler friend in Phoenix in the early 1980s.
I bought the watch in the early 80s from a friend of mine, a jeweler in Phoenix, and I was going to buy a Rolex GMT.
The jeweler convinced him to buy the unique watch meant for cave explorers. The watch had a 24-hour hand and bright, luminous face and hands. After 6 months, the glow faded, and the jeweler replaced the face and hands through Rolex. The guest kept the original hands and face. Someone later told him it was a Steve McQueen Rolex, sparking his curiosity about its value. The appraiser confirmed it as a Rolex Explorer 2, made in 1972. With just the watch, it could fetch a lot at auction.
If you had just brought the watch in without all the other paraphernalia, great watch, I probably would place this watch $8,000 to $12,000.
However, with the whole set, its value jumped significantly.
All of a sudden, this watch goes from $8,000 to $12,000 to being $18,000 to $24,000.
The guest joked about needing a security guard. The appraisal left him both amused and astonished. Have you ever stumbled upon something so unexpected it felt like unearthing a secret from the past? That's exactly what happened when the guest, while sorting through her late mother's trinkets, discovered a gleaming Rolex watch buried among the keepsakes. The appraiser identified it as a bubbleback model. This particular bubbleback is hooded, making it unusual. It features a two-tone design, stainless steel and gold. The appraiser mentions it's a rare variation of the model.
Well, what's interesting and unusual about this one is this is hooded, and this one happens to be two-tone, stainless steel and gold.
Bubblebacks like this one are highly sought after by collectors. In today's market, the appraiser values it.
These watches in today's market easily fetch somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000.
The guest seemed surprised by the appraisal. The appraisal reflects the current demand for vintage Rolex models. The watch in question originally belonged to the guest's uncle, who had a significant connection to Eaton's, a well-known department store in Toronto.
My mother went into a nursing home, and when we were cleaning the house out, the watch was in a polydent box in the cabinet.
After the guest's father passed away, the uncle moved in with the guest's mother. Following the uncle's death, the watch was found while cleaning out the house, surprisingly tucked away in a polydent box. Upon inspection, the appraiser noted that the watch features the name Eaton on the front, indicating it was a presentation watch made for valued employees of the store. The dial displays Quarter of a Century Club, commemorating the uncle's 25 years of service from 1916 to 1941. The back of the watch is engraved with the name Australia, further personalizing the item. The appraiser revealed that this model,
You'll see here that is signed Rolex and Company.
Okay.
This particular model that Rolex made in the 1930s was called the Rolex Prince.
Known as the Rolex Prince, was produced by Rolex in the 1930s and is recognized for its high-grade 18 jeweled movement. The brand itself, established in 1905, has a long-standing reputation for quality and craftsmanship. The watch currently lacks its original leather strap. Its historical significance and the story behind it contribute to the value. The fair auction value of this unique piece is estimated to be between $5,000 and $6,000. Once again, a Rolex reveals its true value, far surpassing what the owner ever imagined. What seemed just like an elegant timepiece at first glance became a symbol of unexpected fortune, a testament to the timeless allure and investment potential of the iconic brand. A guest brought in a special watch that had once belonged to their father. It was given to him by his mother in 1941, just before he joined the military after Pearl Harbor.
And he wore it throughout his service in the Air Corps, and he was shot down wearing this, and he wore it ever since.
The father wore the watch throughout his service in the Air Corps, even when he was shot down. The guest shared a photo of their father receiving a Purple Heart while still wearing the watch. The appraiser noted that it was a rare Rolex from the 1940s, originally marked Rolex Army.
He's wearing the watch in the picture, and this is when he's receiving the Purple Heart.
Although the Rolex held undeniable value, there was a catch. The dial had been repainted, a modification that, while aesthetically pleasing, unfortunately diminished its worth in the eyes of serious collectors. Even so, the guest considered the watch priceless because of its family history. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
It's about $2,000 in a retail shop.
It's still priceless.
Once again, a Rolex reveals an astonishing value that transcends its owner's wildest dreams. A guest brought in her husband's striking pink gold Rolex, a daring purchase made from a desperate co-worker in need of cash. She remembered him snagging it in the 80s for just $60, fully aware it was a rare gem from before World War II.
Being that it's a black original dial for an early bubble back, a lot of the dials were white, stick figures, kind of plain. This has luminescence.
The appraiser confirmed it was a coveted 1943 bubbleback, celebrated for its distinctive, eye-catching shape. An original black dial makes the watch exceptionally special, a rare find that elevates its allure. Most had white dials, frequently swapped out, making this black dial a remarkable rarity. Servicing is still possible today, with the watch poised to last another 50 years.
So they probably burned off the hands and they painted them.
However, he pointed out that smaller watches have lost their luster, leading to a slight drop in the watch's value over the years. While scrutinizing the item's condition, the appraiser exclaimed,
This one's an 18-karat gold top with a steel back. The value of this, because of this particular dial, probably a retail value is about $5,000.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow!
Rolex Oyster Perpetual Bubbleback holds the allure of exquisite craftsmanship. In the 1940s, a Tulsa oilman hosted extravagant parties, often renting a floor in the Mayo Hotel. Guests would be greeted with a basket of Rolex wristwatches as party favors. One attendee's father brought home an Oyster Perpetual Bubbleback watch, which he wore for many years.
My sister came to see me in the hospital, asked if there was anything she could do, and I told her to stop at the scene of the wreck.
After inheriting it, the guest continued to wear the watch until a car accident in 1969 broke it off the band. When the guest's sister visited in the hospital, she was asked to retrieve the watch from the wreckage.
Oyster referring to the fact that it's waterproof. They put O-rings by the crown, and they put a gasket by the back of the case where it screws in.
Remarkably, she found it right beside her foot at the scene. The appraiser examined the watch, noting its key qualities. The model
For $345. Wow, a fantastic price for a watch in those days.
Good price.
Oyster Perpetual Bubbleback, which is waterproof due to O-rings and gaskets, and its original black dial featuring radium numerals and Mercedes hands.
Today, a lot of the dials have been retouched or refinished, and it greatly decreases the value of the watch.
The appraiser confirms that the watch, made in 1944, retains its original components, significantly enhancing its value. He estimated that at auction, it could fetch around $6,000.